All right, everybody. Welcome back to Major Movies and TV. And today we're going to be talking about She-Hulk Attorney at Law. The finale just dropped last night, and I got some things I want to say about this show. I'm not going to do too much of a non-spoiler review. I will give a non-spoiler review, but I want to go into spoilers. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make my reviews shorter. I don't want them to be 30 minutes. Like 20 minutes is my go-to spot. I always over talk about things. I have that issue. So, I am currently trying to make things go a little bit quicker. I'm trying. It's just I talk so much, and I don't have a script. I'm literally just talking and remembering things. So, if you ever wonder why my videos seem very all over the place, or kind of all over the place sometimes, and it seems like I'm not sure about what I'm saying, it's because I'm not. I'm literally just going off of my memory and just saying how I feel, which I feel like is a lot better for me. I might write down some notes sometimes, but I do not write full reviews, Most of the time, it's just my memory and how I feel, which I feel like is more authentic, but it makes it hard for me to kind of trim down the videos, because I'm just saying how I feel. But I'm already rambling about something completely unrelated to the video. So, moving on. We're going to go into a non-spoiler review and then get that over quickly and then go into spoilers. So, there is spoilers in this video. Alright, so She-Hulk Attorney at Law stars Tatiana Maslany, Jamila Jamil, Ginger Gonzaga, Mark Ruffalo, Josh Segarra, Tim Roth, Charlie Cox, and others. But those are the main actors throughout the series. Actually, there's Renee Elise Goldsberry, Mark Lynn Baker, Benedict Wong, John Boss, Griffin Matthews. Alright, so there are some other actors. I just like shouting out the actors. So this series, for me, I've already talked about the first episode a little bit. I've made a video on that. If you want to go check that out, that scene where She-Hulk kind of starts, or Jen starts yelling at Hulk. I did do a video on that. And I don't want to go over every single episode in this review, especially non-spoilers. So what I will say as a whole, this is definitely the worst Disney Plus series that they've put out so far. It is the worst. Anybody who says anything differently, you're entitled to your opinion, but this is definitely the worst. Now, that doesn't mean it's trash or horrible or the end of the MCU. It just doesn't, okay? It really doesn't. I don't know why people are freaking out about this show. It's not as bad as people are making it out to be, and honestly, the hate towards it is probably making it worse for the future. So, and I'm gonna explain why. So, in this show, the main issue is the writing and the comedy not being there. It's not super funny, even though it's supposed to be a comedy. It's supposed to be a courtroom comedy, and there are some episodes where you're not in the courtroom at all. And then other episodes where you're in the courtroom, but not with Jen. So that kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's a courtroom comedy that follows She-Hulk, and She-Hulk isn't in the courtroom all the time. So I kind of wish they didn't market it as that. But if they didn't market it as that and say it was that, I feel like people would be a lot more receptive to this show. Because the marketing doesn't match the show, but the show overall, if you don't think of it as what it was marketed as, it's not horrible, you know? If you think about it as just Jen is a lawyer and a superhero, and that is gonna fluctuate on how much she does of each one, and you kind of bring back that expectation of, oh, every episode is gonna have a court case, every episode is gonna have superheroing and a court case and a personal connection to the character and tie-ins to the greater MCU. That's a lot, like to think about for a 30-minute show every week for 9 episodes. Like, honestly, I wish the episodes were longer. I wish we had more, because it would have been better if they could have actually had some episodes that focused only on court stuff, and then some episodes that focused only on superhero stuff, and some episodes that gave Jen a more personal connection, and then all centered it around it being somewhat of a comedy with funny moments and stuff like that, goofy ideas, goofy characters, but it still was more fleshed out and more reasonable. I think it would have been better off if there was actually more to it. The issue is there's not enough to it, and what they have is not appealing. So I feel like that is the main issue with the show. It is definitely the worst Disney Plus show. I liked Hawkeye a lot better than I like this, and I actually don't hate this show. I see the potential in it. I like Jen Walters as She-Hulk, the character. I like Tatiana Maslany. She did good with this character. It's just the show itself around the character is not right. It doesn't feel right. But everything they did with the character itself, like the character herself, doesn't feel wrong. Like Bruce doesn't feel wrong. Daredevil doesn't feel wrong. It's just the show around it feels wrong, if that makes sense. And that's my main, take with this show when it comes to non-spoilers. It's I wouldn't say it's worth checking out. I wouldn't. But if you're, I guess maybe it is worth checking out if you're not so into the MCU that your judgment can be clouded by some mistakes. Like, people expect perfection. Nobody is perfect. The MCU is gonna have, movies that don't do as well. It's not a perfect system. It's run by one guy. Like, you can't expect perfection. You can't. This is a lot better than the 2000s superhero movies that we got. Leagues above. Not even close to those movies. So, for us to sit here and complain about every little detail about one part of it, it just feels entitled. It feels like people are expecting way too much at this point, after we've gotten Infinity War and Endgame and a lot of great movies. But there's gonna be missteps. There's gonna be things that aren't perfect with this. And one mistake is not the end of the MCU. It's not the end of future amazing content, okay? It's not. Phase 4 hasn't been that bad. It really hasn't. Like, compare what we got in Phase 4 to superhero movies in the 2000s, other than the classics like Spider-Man, okay? We had a couple classic 2000 superhero movies, right? Mainly Spider-Man, and really that's pretty much it. It's just Spider-Man. You know, we got, even the Incredible Hulk was a part of the MCU. In all reality, how many really good superhero movies did we get in the 2000s? We had like nostalgic movies. We had like Nick Cage's Ghost Rider. We had all this stuff, but it none of that is on the quality of what we have now. The worst of the MCU is still better than what we had. So why are we praying for the MCU's downfall when they put out things that aren't up to par with itself? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. And it feels very entitled, and it's very annoying. Like, goddamn, bro. Chill. It's like, seriously, the worst of the MCU is still some of the best superhero movies we've ever gotten. So, why? Why you like this? But that's my little rant. This video is gonna be long. I knew it. Like, this is gonna be a long-ass video. God. I'm gonna talk for a bit. So yeah. That's my little rant. Honestly, yeah. Well, you know, if you haven't seen She-Hulk yet and you're a fan of the MCU and you like the comedic side of the MCU, watch this show. You might like it. It's not horribly made. It's not complete and utter trash. It's just not up to par with the rest of the MCU. And when you have things like Infinity War and Endgame in the MCU, it's gonna be hard to make everything hit that mark. It will, especially with these Disney Plus TV shows that they're just now starting to do. All of these shows were most likely in production around the same time. That's why they're all being released around the same time. So they are learning how to do it right now. This is their starting point. Things will get better. You know? So, yeah, that's my little rant. And, you know, let's be positive. Let's not be a bunch of assholes. So yeah. I'll end my non-spoiler review there. The characters themselves are entertaining. I didn't hate this show, but it's just not on par with the rest of the MCU. So if you're not super into the MCU, this isn't something that's going to bring you into the MCU. But if you're already a fan of the MCU, this shouldn't completely take you out of it. Like some people. Jesus. But yeah. Alright, so I'm going to go into spoilers now. I'm not going to talk about what happens in every single episode down to the detail, but I am going to talk about each episode. So, episode 1, A Normal Amount of Rage. So this is the origin of Jen Walters as She-Hulk. I like the idea of, you know, them going after her blood. Her blood gets into... Bruce's blood gets into Jen from a car accident. She gets Hulk powers. And I feel like this episode was pretty fun because we had a lot of Bruce and Jen working together, and they actually felt like family members. So I was like, alright, cool. They're not perfect. They're not, like, super, like, perfect friends. They're cousins. And it felt like they were cousins. So I like that. The ideas that Bruce was bringing up about how people can see her as this monster and everything, and it does get brought up later in the series, and he was right. But I think people take Jen's, like, criticism of men and, like, the show's criticism of men as saying that the women in the show are perfect, when it was shown clearly that Jen is not perfect throughout the series. She makes a lot of mistakes. So I don't know why that is the... And the fact that if she does believe that she has to deal with more than men in terms of, like, abuse from society or whatever, she's not proving her point well. And I feel like that's why people hate this. Because they see the hypocrisy in it. They're like, oh, well, Jen's not perfect. Why is she saying these things about men? About how, oh, women have to do so much more than men. When, women make mistakes too. Women aren't perfect. And they take that and they get mad at it when that's the point. And that's the whole point. Is that Jen's not perfect. And she's acting like she knows better when she doesn't. That's the whole point. You're on the right track, but you're getting mad at the show for doing it. So I know, like, you know what I mean? Like, the show is saying that Jen thinks that she knows better when she doesn't, and that people see men as worse than they actually are. But that's the whole point of the show, and I'm gonna get into that more later on. But yeah, other than that, I like the fight between them. At the end where they kind of fight, and then at the end, Bruce is like, "All right, screw it, you do you. I'm gonna go to Sakaar and figure out what's going on with that. So you do you." And then she has to learn as she goes along. That's the personal arc for her, is that she has to learn what Bruce tried to tell her in the first episode throughout the series and get used to it, and then realize at the end that, yeah, he was kind of right. So, yeah, that's the whole arc. That's the personal connection to the character, is that she's not perfect, and that she proves throughout the series that she's not perfect, and she has to learn just like Bruce did. That's the whole point. So then we go into episode 2, Superhuman Law. This episode was where she gets set up for the Superhuman Law division at her firm. People are starting to recognize her as She-Hulk, and then she has to defend Emil Blonsky, aka Abomination. And when it comes to this show and dealing with men and how they kind of portray certain men, this Dennis guy, people might think oh, it's an exaggeration, not all men are like this, but oh my god, I have dealt with some stupid men. I can't deny that there are men out there who act like Dennis. I can't. He's I can't say that those guys don't exist. I can't. Now, granted, not every guy is like that, but they didn't make every guy like that in the show. I'm going to explain more, probably in another video, of what I think this show is actually about. But there is no other guy in the show that acts like Dennis, okay? There are guys that do different screwed up things, but they're all different. And I think that's the point, is that there are good guys, and there are guys that do screwed up things, and then there's Dennis, essentially. Dennis is the worst of the worst. And throughout the show, they are showing off the differences. Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is good. Bruce, good. Dennis, very bad. Todd, very bad. Josh, very bad. Pug, he's good. Pug is good. They have different male characters that do different things. Pug is the most realistic one, because he's an actual person who doesn't do superhero stuff, but he's just there. He's just kind of there. He's chilling. He's doing Pug stuff. So I think that's it's supposed to be a dynamic thing where you see all sides of it. That way you can see where Jen is coming from sometimes. You have Todd, Josh, Dennis, and the guys in the first episode that were catcalling her. Worst. Then you have, Emil Blonsky, Bruce, not Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock, pug on the other end. You see both sides. I feel like just because you call out one side doesn't automatically mean you're degrading the other side. You're just calling out one side. And granted, it'd be nice if there was MCU content that called out the worst of the worst when it came to females. But we've had a lot of female villains. We've had a lot of females who have done wrong things. A lot of girls have done horrible things in the MCU. So I don't know why now all of a sudden, because a couple guys are assholes and some aren't, it's destroying men. I didn't feel that way. Honestly, the worst guys in this show, they piss me off too. Like, and I know they exist. I know they do. I've dealt with them. They're annoying as hell. For me too. I can't defend them. So why am I getting mad that they're calling them out? And I'm relating more to the good guys in the show. Like, why? Like, I don't understand that. I don't understand that mentality of just because they call out one guy they do exist in real life. They do. You're automatically, like, yeah, it annoys me. So, yeah, and then episode 3... in episode 2, they find out that Wong has been taking Abomination out to do fighting tournaments or whatever. So Jen puts together this legal case to defend Abomination. It ends up working out. Abomination is released. Wong vouches for him because Abomination, he wanted to go back to jail after he was taken out of jail by Wong. So, there's some good in there. And he says he's a changed man. And then we have, the part where the elf from New Asgard impersonated Megan Thee Stallion in order to trick Dennis into buying her a ton of shit. So yeah, that part was kind of annoying. Probably the most annoying part of the series. I didn't like that, but I didn't... For people complaining about the twerking thing, I didn't hate that. Like, it wasn't like... It was a post-credit scene of She-Hulk twerking with Megan Thee Stallion. I don't care, bro. I don't care. MCU, people want the MCU to be more adult, but then complain about that. Like, okay, it's dancing. People do that in real life. Like, I don't understand. Like, it might be a little cringy, but fuck it. Like, what does it matter? I don't understand. But okay. Yeah, so that happens. Yeah, and then the Wrecking Crew try to steal her blood. She kicks their asses, and, then it kind of starts this story of these people trying to steal Jen's blood or whatever. In the episode, Is This Not Real Magic? Pretty much, this magician is using Karmatage magic in his magic shows, and it could cause a lot of problems, so Wong wants to legally stop him from doing that, which, to me, doesn't make sense. Why would Wong want to bring the law into this? Why can't Wong just teleport there, take his ring, and go? Like, whatever. But, so they try to do that. They end up succeeding in the end because he accidentally opens a portal to this dimension with a bunch of bats. This is the Wongers episode with Madison with 2 eyes or whatever the hell. And I didn't hate that character, And I guess that's again, it shows diversity within each, gender. It doesn't just show all women as perfect. This Madison chick is drunk all the time, and she's just meant to be drunk fun. If that was like, say she was a character in the show and they didn't go after guys, women would be upset because that girl doesn't represent all women and it would make women look bad. Same with men. It's showing all of them. It's showing diversity with how bad or good men and women can be. And I'm not saying Madison is bad, but she's kind of a stereotype. Same with the other guys. She's a stereotype of drunk party girl. You know, that stupid drunk party girl. Now, granted, she's not as hateable as the others, but the same people who will complain about Dennis will also say, oh, Madison's just some dumb girl. Like, God, well, Dennis is a dumb guy. That's kind of the point. But, you know, that's my take on it. So yeah, they end up, you know, getting the magician Donnie Blaze to stop using her power, stop using his powers, and then at the end they find out that Titania has trademarked the name She-Hulk. So, and then into the next episode, Titania and Jen and her Mallory Brooke sue Titania for the use of She-Hulk's name. This episode, when it came to the past like two episodes with Emil Blonsky's court case and This Is Not Real Magic. This Is Not Real Magic was one of the more entertaining episodes, and one I actually did kind of like. It had some funny moments, and actually, before I move on to episode 5, you could tell I'm not scripted. There's in this episode, Jen goes on Tinder or whatever, and she goes on a bunch of dates, and she meets a bunch of different guys, all different types of assholes, you know. And honestly, yeah, if you're a guy on Tinder, you're most likely a little bit of an asshole most of the time. Not all guys, but you know. So yeah, this is where Todd is introduced, and you can kind of tell he's going to be brought up more often, and he is throughout the series. And then, you know, she goes on a bunch of dates with a bunch of weird guys, and then there's one guy who's really nice to her and treats her nicely, and then they go home together, and then they, you know, eventually, you know, have fun. And then, but the problem is the guy only likes She-Hulk. He doesn't like Jen. Is he a horrible guy? No. But he wasn't the right guy for Jen. And they don't treat him horribly. He has his preference. Yes, they show how that preference hurts Jen. But they don't attack this dude. They don't make him stupid. They just kind of, you know, show that. And it's not bad. Like, I know. Yeah. So, yeah, that part I didn't mind. I don't mind that. You know, they showed this dude as a preference. It didn't work out between them. Jen's hurt by it, but she can't say anything too bad about him. You know? Maybe you could have been more upfront about it, but when you put yourself out there as something, and then you hook up with someone, and then that person, and then you show them a different side of you, and that person doesn't like that side of you, you kind of let them in too fast, you know? So that's again, a flaw in Jen's character. That's a flaw. She let that dude in too fast. And that's kind of a reoccurring flaw, you know? She lets guys in too quickly, and it bites her in the ass in the end. And we're going to get to that. But Is This Not Real Magic? One of the better episodes in the series. It was entertaining. It had some funny jokes. Mean Green and Straight poured into these jeans. This episode... So this is a very basic episode. So this is the episode where Mallory and She-Hulk sue Titania. They end up proving that She-Hulk is a brand that Jen has been using before Titania, by saying that because She-Hulk has identified as She-Hulk for a long period of time and the public knows her as that, she shouldn't have to copyright her own name, essentially, as a brand. And it works because they bring in the guys that Jen went on dates with in the last episode, and the guy who had that preference for She-Hulk over Jen explains that he would not have gone on a date with her if she wasn't She-Hulk and didn't advertise herself as She-Hulk. So that kind of wins her the court case there, which, fair point. And then after that, this is the episode, I believe. Oh yeah, this is where Pug and the friend's name, I can't remember. Nikki. God, Pug and Nikki. This is the episode where they find the dude who makes the super suits so that Jen can have a better wardrobe. Because, yeah, the CGI in this show is not the best, and her outfits did not compliment her in the first couple episodes. So, yeah, that was a good idea. Other than that, the CGI does get better throughout the series, though. That subplot was kind of funny. At some points, they find a bunch of, like, Avengers, like, knockoff brand products, and they're wearing them. It was entertaining, and I like the Jacobson character. He's, like, the super suit maker for everyone. It made sense, and it was a cool world-building thing, you know? So, next episode, just Jen. This is the wedding episode where Jen is invited to a wedding. And again, this episode shows a shitty girl. The wife or whatever. She treats Jen like crap the whole time. And then Titania somehow gets into it to cause problems, and then they end up fighting, but you know, it's not, you know, that rivalry is kind of meh. And then Titania doesn't really come back throughout the series in a meaningful way. So this is like the last episode where Titania is really shown, which I think she'll come back in some future content somehow. And overall, Titania is kind of a meh character. Not horrible, but you know, I think she needs to be fleshed out more before I can make it a real opinion on her. So, yeah, that happens. They're at the wedding. Jen is treated like shit the whole time. They get into a fight. And, yeah, that's pretty much that episode. This is where she meets Josh, who's like this nice guy that she goes on a couple dates with. And then eventually hooks up with, but then turns out he's not good either. You know, he's one of the bad guys. So there's that. Other than that, this episode is kind of, it had some funny, the show has funny moments throughout each episode, but it's not overall funny, which is weird, but you know. So the retreat, this episode just focuses on Jen. And again, like the past two episodes, there's been like, in the last episode, the marriage episode, the Mr. Immortal subplot, it was alright. That's where the funniness came from, where he offs himself, he just jumps out the window. That joke was funny. I like that one. And like the idea of this dude killing himself just to get out of marriages with like 10 different women. You know, it was entertaining, and I can see how that could be like a legal problem with superhumans. You know, I get that. And it's cool to introduce a mutant into, you know, the MCU like that. But yeah, so that was kind of entertaining, but again, I guess this episode was okay. It was alright. Definitely better than the last episode. The retreat is where we kind of get more of a personal thing with Jen. It's focused on Jen. She ends up going to Emil Blonsky's retreat where they talk about their feelings, and it's like an emotional retreat for supervillains. Like, and this episode had some funny moments, but overall it was, the best part about it was the fact that we got to see more of Jen as a character, like explaining how she feels about things. But other than that, the episode was kind of boring. It wasn't amazing. But the introspection into Jen as a character was warranted and needed. So, kind of explaining how she feels shitty because people, she doesn't know if people love her for She-Hulk or for her or whatever. So yeah, that's that. And that was needed, but it could have been done better. And it's cool to have Tim Roth back as Emil Blonsky, and he's kind of turning over a new leaf and stuff like that. Then we get into the best episode of the series. In the retreat. So the reason she's at the retreat is because now, after Josh and her had fun, Josh is now, like, ghosting her, and that's what brings up the whole like thing of where she doesn't know if people love her or for She-Hulk. Alright, so there's that. Then we get into Rip It and Rip It, Jesus, where we get Daredevil. Daredevil's awesome in this. The fight between them was really cool. Best episode of the series. It had a good balance of court stuff, comedy. The comedy wasn't cringy. It actually made sense, and this is definitely the best episode. Even if you don't like She-Hulk, this episode was solid. I did like this episode, and if they do a season 2 of She-Hulk, every episode needs to be at least on the quality of this episode. But pretty much what happens is Leapfrog fucks up his suit, tries to sue Jen's suit maker, because they're the same person that made the same suit. Matt Murdock defends the suit maker because he made Matt's suit, Daredevil suit, and then, what happens is Leapfrog ends up losing the court case, kidnaps the suit maker to make him a new suit. Jen and Matt Murdock, Daredevil, they go save him after fighting. The fight scene was fun. I liked that between the two. Then they go and they save the dude, and then they do it. That's pretty much a brief synopsis of the episode, but definitely this is the best episode of the series by far. Definitely the best. Matt Murdock does great as Daredevil. I actually have not watched a Netflix Daredevil series yet, but this got me excited for watching that and the new Daredevil series. So I definitely want to get into that. I think it's going to be really cool. Yeah, so, and then they do this thing where, Jen has this gala to go to. She is being nominated the reward for best female lawyer or whatever. They go to this gala, and then for some reason they give out the award for best female lawyer to like every lawyer, every female lawyer, and they all have their own speeches. This is some sort of commentary about how women can't be above each other. You know, they can't be in competition with each other or something like that. It has to be. Because that was just weird, but it was never explained what that was supposed to mean. So I can kind of infer that it was supposed to be like, oh, women, you know, can't be in competition with each other. They all have to win together. So, you know, that's what I saw from it. But while Jen is making her speech, Hulk King, which is this guy who runs this website called Intelligentsia that wants to destroy She-Hulk's reputation, plays her sex tape in the background and tries to expose her. Which for me, I'm like, is that really even a good way of exposing someone at this point in society? Like, I feel like, for one, most people, if they see that, they're just gonna look away. And be like, oh, this is messed up, I'm not gonna watch this, and look away. You know? And then, we have so many OnlyFans models and so many girls who just don't care about showing off that stuff. Is that really even a thing anymore? And I guess, you know, well, obviously, if it's against what you want, then yes, it's very wrong. And I was very, you know, like, that actually made me feel bad for Jen, because yes, that is very wrong. But of all things to do, like, really? That's what you're gonna do to expose her? It's messed up, but there wasn't even any nudity in the video before it got destroyed. You just kind of see her grinding on Josh. It's not like, it's not like completely disturbing. Like, I don't know, maybe I sound stupid, but for me, I'm like, I feel like Jen's reaction to it was the not wrong reaction, but the reaction that she didn't need to do. I feel like everyone in that room would have been very understanding of the fact that if she got upset and she got sad about it, not angry, but sad, if she got emotional about it, people would comfort her and it would actually help her, because more people would sympathize with her and would have sympathized with her and come together to support her going through this issue. You know, because yes, most normal people can clearly see that is wrong. That what is happening is wrong. And if she didn't get mad, if she got emotional about it and expressed her feelings in a healthier way, it honestly would have helped her image. But they baited her into getting mad. She got mad, destroyed the thing, and then got arrested for destroying everything and getting mad. And that's what Bruce said at the beginning of the series, where one slip up and you're a monster, pretty much. So that's that. Then we get into the season finale, and Nikki and Pug are trying to infiltrate this intelligentsia event. Jen has gone out of jail, but she can't transform into She-Hulk anymore. She gets kicked out of her house and has to live with her parents because she lost her job. And now now she is going to Emil Blonsky's retreat in order to help herself out, get some help. And so she goes back there. Nikki and Pug are infiltrating this all-guys event, and they're making fun of these guys who are so angry about the current state of the MCU and why there's so many female versions of different characters and stuff like that. And they're saying like, oh, I wouldn't complain or I would still complain about a derivative male version of a character. And it's like, is it really derivative if it's different? It'd be more derivative if it was a guy. Like, we have like 2 different versions of Ghost Riders that are both just dudes, and they both have their own stories. 2 different male versions of Spider-Man. Nobody complains about that. Nobody. You know, so that in itself is a lie. But, you know, we only have that exact thing going on in the MCU and Marvel. But people don't complain about that, and that's the point. They only complain when it's a female derivative version of a character, not a male. And there's proof about that. And they don't allow the female versions to have their own stories. It's, you know, these guys. Not all guys. These guys. Like, people complaining about Lady Thor. Like, Mighty Thor. Like, at the end of that movie, she dies. You know, spoilers for Thor 4, but she dies at the end. She's not coming back. She's not replacing Thor. So I don't know why people got mad about that. It was a single contained story in one movie. Like, Jesus Christ. You know, she died at the end of cancer. Like, God. But, so after that, then it's shown that Emil Blonsky is transforming into Abomination to host events at his resort, probably to just make money. He's not in with intelligentsia, but he's there just hyping them up and getting them, you know, like doing like a motivational speech thing. Nikki or Pug and Nikki show up along with Jen. They see what's happening, and then it just goes off the rails. Todd is like, "Oh, I have your blood," and then he injects it into himself and turns into this weird Hulk version of Todd. And then Abomination like saves Jen from him, and then Bruce bursts in through the ceiling from space and then fights Abomination a little bit, and then Titania appears, and there's just a whole lot going on. And then Jen's like, no, this is not what I want for my show. And she does the ultimate fourth wall break. At first, I thought the episode ended. Like, the Disney Plus thing actually got me for a second. I was like, what the hell happened? And then and then you see She-Hulk breaking through the Disney Plus menu screen and going into the real world where Marvel Studios actually is. And then she goes to the writers of She-Hulk, complains to them about everything, you know, being so uncreative, and then they tell her that she needs to go talk to Kevin, and then they're like, no one talks to Kevin. Then she fights her way through Marvel Studios and then finds Kevin. And Kevin is a robot. Kevin Feige is a robot. And they even gave him the little hat. So that was funny. And then pretty much they're just talking the whole time in this super meta way about how the MCU is going and how Jen doesn't want her story to be like the others, where it's just like this big fight at the end of the series, bringing in a bunch of people, and she just wants it to be her own story, and that she just wants legal justice for these people who have been harassing her. Which makes sense. These people that have been harassing her aren't super villains. They're just idiots. And bringing them to justice through the legal system makes sense. She's been being harassed by idiots that are doing horrible things to her, and if she wasn't She-Hulk, I feel like that's how she would have to do it, is go through the legal system, and that's what she wants to do. She doesn't want to fight these people. She wants to bring them to justice through the legal system. How she's been through the whole series like this. So when people say, oh, it doesn't make sense, it does make sense. Y'all just weren't paying attention, most likely because you already hated the show before the finale happened, so you just didn't pay attention to the fact that she has said throughout the thing that she doesn't want big superhero fights. She doesn't really want that. She just wants to live her life. And if she can help people in both ways, then that's great. Like Daredevil said, when society fails, you can help people through the law, and when the law fails, you can help people as a superhero. And that's perfect for this. It all makes sense. She's telling Kevin, the robot here, that that she just wants to be able to bring Todd and Intelligentsia to justice and make them stop harassing her. She says that, and then she also makes some other meta jokes about, the X-Men coming into the MCU and everything like that. And, and and then Kevin agrees. He's like, all right, well, let's try to do something different. And then they do something different. They don't have the big fight anymore. It just goes back into the show, and at that point, Todd's getting arrested. Abomination is being held accountable for turning into Abomination when he wasn't supposed to be on his parole. He broke his parole. And then she's gonna sue Todd and Intelligentsia for defamation and all that. And that's how it ends. She gets her job back, and then they're all chilling as a family. Daredevil comes back again from the sky. That was funny. That was kind of funny, and I didn't mind this finale. It was entertaining. It was different. It was different, and it does make sense with the character. So I don't know why people are so mad about it. The last 2 episodes were the best episodes of the series. I kind of wish they did more of that weirdness, but that's just me. I liked the finale. I liked how it happened. And no, this doesn't make the outside world canon in the MCU. It doesn't, because they're still separate universes. Jen didn't bring Kevin into the MCU. She didn't bring the writers into the MCU. She went out of the MCU, talked to them, and then went back in the MCU. She's the only character that can do that. It's not like Iron Man is now flying in and out of the MCU. That doesn't work. It's just Jen. Jen is the only one that can do this. And honestly, you can kind of explain it as it was all in her head, but we just didn't see her bringing them to justice. You can kind of see it as the fourth wall breaking is in Jen's head. In her mind, she is talking to Kevin. She is talking to him, and she wants to change her story. But in all reality, in the MCU, she could just be calling the cops. like, the story in the MCU is happening at the same time Jen is talking to Kevin. And I feel like people miss that. But that's just me. So yeah, that's, I like the finale, and then she gets her job back, and we move on with things. They're all sitting around a table talking with their family. I did like her parents. Her parents are entertaining in every episode they're in. They were funny. And then what happens is Hulk comes back with his son Scar from Sakaar, and people were saying, oh, that doesn't make sense. Where did Hulk get a son from? Like, have you not been watching the movies? Thor Ragnarok. Hulk was in space for years. Like, he at any point could have made a son, and then when he left Sakaar in Ragnarok, the baby was born, and then Sakaar has a sped up time, so he aged rapidly. And now they're on Earth. And then when Hulk went back to Sakaar, he finds out, oh, I have a son who is really old now because Sakaar has different time than Earth. And then he brings him back to Earth. How is this hard to understand? But, that's just me. So yeah, that was cool. It would be cool to see Scar, and I'm pretty sure they're setting up for World War Hulk. And then the post-credit scene, Wong takes Emil Blonsky out of prison at the end again and brings him to Kamar-Taj. And I'm 99% sure that is setting up Abomination in Thunderbolts. Because I don't think that casting that they did at D23 was the final cast. I think Abomination is going to be in that movie. They just haven't announced it yet because She-Hulk just ended. And they didn't want to spoil it. I'm 99% sure Abomination is going to show up in Thunderbolts, and that's what this was setting up. And it's also setting up World War Hulk, and it's also setting up Daredevil Born Again. It all makes sense. And I kind of hope that Jen appears in Daredevil Born Again, because that would be fun. I hope she does, because I like her character, and it'd be fun to see her in things other than her own show to really show that she can be a really fun character. The actor does well as the character. I enjoy the character. I'm not mad about it. So yeah, that is my review for She-Hulk Attorney at Law. I didn't hate it. I also didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It has issues. It has a lot of issues. Definitely the worst Disney Plus show. But I didn't hate all of it. You know, it's like people either defend it or hate it. It's like, why can't you just think about it critically? Where is our critical thinking skills? Please. But that's all I'll say about the show. I enjoyed it for the most part, but it definitely has its issues. So yeah, that's that. I enjoyed the finale. I thought, the last 2 episodes are definitely the best 2 episodes. I don't care. What anyone, obviously, if you have your own opinion, that's your opinion, but I'm just tired of people hating this show when it doesn't feel like they're giving they don't have the best and understanding of the show in the first place. Yeah. But, alright, so that'll be it for my She-Hulk Attorney at Law video. This episode is really long, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another video on She-Hulk Attorney at Law, because I have a theory about this show that I think is correct, and I just want to share it. So, after this video, I'm going to work on that video, and if you have your own thoughts on She-Hulk Attorney at Law, let me know down in the comments below, and we could talk about it. Be respectful. Come at me and I'll come at you back. And that'll be it. Have a good day.